Hello YouTube, Jeff Steele here with Steele Navigator. Today's video topic is on driving the Jeep XJ or Jeep Cherokee. This is a 98 Jeep Cherokee 4-wheel drive with the AW4 auto transmission and the 4.0 engine. This Jeep has about 326,000 miles on it. Got a new engine at about 322,000. New transmission about 240,000. New transfer case at about 318,000. With the exception of the front end that needs to be rebuilt, I probably need to redo the suspension. The Jeep is pretty much brand new. There's no rust whatsoever. I'm running BFG KO2 all-terrain tires. They've got about 35,000 miles on them. Jeep does great. So this is just going to be a drive. I've been driving this Jeep for over 6 years now, daily driver. City trips, highway trips. I have drove this Jeep on a 5-hour trip one way from Atlanta to Charleston. That's the longest trip I have made in the Jeep. No issues. So I'm going to go ahead and start it up. Going to take a short drive and we'll talk about how it drives, how it handles, what it's like driving the Jeep Cherokee. There's no lift. I do have 235 size tires. So outside of a tire size up, the Jeep is stock, no lifts, no extra large tires. The 4.0 is not a modern engine. Even during the summer months in the South, I let it warm up at least 1 or 2 minutes, and I really don't get into the RPMs or start running it hard until I get up to normal operating temp, which is anywhere from 190 to 210. Usually it takes about 5 minutes of driving easy, get it up to normal operating temp. I run the best motor oil and oil filter I can get, AMSOIL. It's 100% synthetic, so which is even better than full synthetic. Does very well. This new engine, I'm approaching the 5,000 mile break-in. It's not using or burning any oil, no blow-by. It's been fantastic. I check the oil every week, so it's doing well. Fuel economy is slowly improving. So Atlanta is now in a shelter-in-place lockdown. The governor issued it to go into effect yesterday, Friday, 6 p.m. There are a few exceptions to that. Hopefully, we don't get pulled over and get interrogated by the police as far as while we're out and about. There are exceptions. I will be going to the grocery store, so that is one of the exceptions. I would say the Jeep Cherokee drives best in city driving scenarios. It's a small SUV. It turns on a dime. You can park it in the busiest, the most congested, tightly packed parking deck in an urban environment. Again, I'm speaking in regards to a Jeep Cherokee that is pretty much stock. Now, if I had the 6-inch lift on this Jeep with 35, 37-inch tires, that would be a different scenario. It would be a much larger vehicle. But they made over 2 million of these Jeeps. There are a lot out there that are still in great condition, that haven't been rusted out, chopped up, cut up, jacked up, that you can find, that are great vehicles, great daily drivers. Most have a 355 gear ratio. It's a good street gear. What would be the perfect gear ratio in a Jeep? I would say a minimum of 410 gears to say 456 gears. That would be ideal. But the 355 gears work. I know they made some with 373s from the factory. I don't think very many. So I'm getting pretty close to full operating temp. That's when the Jeep really starts to come alive. They are cold natured. Takes them a little bit to warm up. But they also are known to overheat. So if you're going to be doing a lot of driving in heavy traffic, a lot of off-roading where your speeds are very low, or you're just crawling, you're going to have to upgrade the cooling system, no doubt about it. These Jeeps do best in city driving. Between 0 and, I'd say the best driving mile per hour would be between 40 and 50 miles an hour. That's when they really perform at their best as far as on the road driving. Let's talk about the death wobble. The death wobble is a reality pretty much for any vehicle that has a straight front axle. In regards to the Jeep, it's short wheelbase. It has a straight axle both in the front and the rear. And we're talking about the Jeep Cherokees up until 2001. Eventually, all Jeeps, regardless of whether they're stock or jacked up, they're going to have the death wobble eventually. It's just a matter of time. The front ends just wear out. 90% of the cases and up, it's a track bar related issue. But it could be a combination of many factors, and usually you'll just have to replace all of the front end components. And the more you abuse it, the more off-roading you do, the harder driving you do, and especially when you start lifting and getting into bigger tires, things wear out faster, and it's just going to have to be rebuilt often. I've heard of people rebuilding their Jeep front ends on a yearly basis. Keeping the Jeep stock pretty much other than the big tires, and I'm going to have it all rebuilt, maybe new shocks and struts as well, maybe new leaf springs. My death wobble occurs at about 55 miles an hour, and between 55 and 60 it really exasperates, and then at 65 is usually when it starts to stop, and then when I get up to about 70 miles an hour, the death wobble just goes away. So 70 to 80, which is a lot of times the speed I'll have on the highway, the Jeep planes out, there is no death wobble then. So the death wobble is between 55 and 65 miles an hour. It's at its worst between 55 and 60 miles an hour. I think most Jeep owners can vouch that is the case the majority of the time. These Jeeps they're not good vehicles to drive on the highway. That is not their cup of tea. They're short wheelbase, they're straight axles, front and rear. The cab is not well insulated, so the cab noise is very loud. Even if you had highway tires and a really quiet exhaust system, the doors are just pretty much plastic or vinyl and metal. They're not heavily insulated as modern vehicles are. If you're going to be doing a lot of highway driving, I just would not recommend the Jeep Cherokee for that. On occasion, it's fine. You can deal with it. But I've just found that on trips over an hour that are mostly on the highway, I find myself, like, I can get impatient, a little annoyed with things, especially if it's funny, the death wobble, some days it's worse than others. I don't know why, but I have noticed that. Some days it's just worse. And so, if you're going to be spending a lot of time on the highway, you're going to need a larger vehicle, maybe longer wheelbase with independent front suspension. However, if you're going to minimize highway driving, you're going to be spending a lot of time off-road in the city. The Jeep Cherokee is a fantastic vehicle. It does not do well with frequent stop and starts. I have a new engine, new fuel injectors, pretty much everything's brand new as far as that's concerned. I run the best fuel, Shell Super 93, the Nitro. Run a can of Seafoam every 1,500 miles. If I make short city trips where I stop, turn off the Jeep, and then restart it, it almost acts a lot of times as if it's flooded. These Jeeps are not carbureted, they're fuel injected. However, it sometimes seems as if it's flooded, and that's with frequent stop and starts. I don't know why they do that, I'm not real sure. I've found that if I drive the Jeep somewhere, if I let it sit at least an hour, I don't seem to have that issue. But if I stop in a store, turn the Jeep off, run in for 5-10 minutes, I come back out, restart it, sometimes it will act as if it's flooded. If you know why that is, please leave a comment down below. What are my plans for this Jeep? This Jeep, I absolutely love it. As I mentioned, I've been driving it for over 6 years. I have put approximately about 85,000 miles on this Jeep. There's no rust. Most everything is new on it, other than some small little things such as getting the front end rebuilt, maybe a new suspension system. I plan on driving this Jeep until either one, the frame rusts out, which there's no rust on it. I live in Atlanta. Probably not going to have to worry about that. Or unless I say I can't get a part for something, which there is such a huge following, they made over 2 million of these Jeeps. I don't see that being an issue. I've always been able to find parts readily available everywhere, multiple brands, so I don't see that being an issue. What will make me stop driving this Jeep? Well, one, if somebody offers me an obscene amount of money to where I would be a complete fool not to turn it down. That would be one thing, which I don't see happening because most people like modern, brand new vehicles versus projects. Two, if somebody hits my Jeep or if I happen to have some type of accident and it totals the Jeep out to where it cannot be repaired, that might be what makes me, that would probably be number one thing to make me stop driving the Jeep. If I have some type of accident or somebody hits me and it's just totaled beyond repair. Outside of that, I plan on driving this Jeep forever, absolutely forever. I mean, I'll probably get another vehicle as an extra option instead of having to borrow one of my father's vehicles if this is in the shop. Yes, I do plan on getting something else to have an extra vehicle just in case. But outside of that, I plan on keeping this Jeep virtually forever. That's my plan. I find it to be the most useful vehicle I have ever owned. I have owned four-wheel drive pickup trucks. I've owned small SUVs, grocery getters as my friends would call them. I have owned fast cars, but as far as a vehicle that is the most useful, where you can get the most use, this most application, the Jeep Cherokee with the 4.0 and the AW4 to me is the most useful vehicle out there. The important things are mechanical, not electronic. The reliability is unparalleled. Parts are readily available. They're inexpensive to fix, work on, take it to a mechanic shop. It's such a great vehicle. Lots of fire trucks out. Wonder what's going on. There's no doubt that on the highway, my fast car and especially my pickup, they rode the best on the highway. No question about it. But most of our driving today, for most of us, is in the city, in urban environments, and large vehicles are very cumbersome. They're very much a pain in the parking lot. This parking is troublesome. And if there's a traffic, if there's a situation where roads are blocked, I need to get off on the median, the shoulder, can put the Jeep in four-wheel drive, get through, continue on my journey. The 4.0 has enough power and torque to do the job. I can get 19, 20 miles a gallon on the highway. I average 16, well, my computer says I average 17.7 in the city. I hear a lot of other people get 15, 16, so it's adequate. Not the best fuel economy in the world, but the reliability factor cannot be matched. So this is daily driving the Jeep Cherokee XJ. Just a few of my thoughts on the subject. Comment down below on your thoughts of daily driving the Jeep Cherokee XJ. What do you like about it? What do you don't like about it? For those of you that daily drive it, tap the thumbs up icon. Subscribe to the channel if you would. Share this video. I will leave links down below for things that I've upgraded on my Jeep Cherokee to take your Cherokee from good to great. Essential parts, I feel like. But thank you for watching, and have a great day.